Hello, book eaters. Welcome. We gather here today to delve deep into my fragmented psyche. Basically, I thought I could review some of my favorite books by comparing them to visual artworks that I love. And I fear, looking at my list, that it's a bit Jackson Pollock, something a bit Picasso.
Okay, I like it, Picasso.
But I love being all over the place, and I love weird art. And if you do too, you're in the right place. By the way, this is water. It's part of my costume. I'm going to start off easy with The Secret History by Donna Tartt because, why yes, I am one of those girlies, easily. It's dark academic on a rye, there's culty vibes, it's a campus novel. It begins at a liberal arts college where the devotees of an ancient Greek professor murder one of their own. And we find this out on page 1, so I'm not spoiling anything there. But we followed the unfurling of the rest of the story through the eyes of Richard, who is their newest member and is a bit of an outsider. It's very reminiscent of a reading from Homer by the Dutch artist Sir Lawrence Amatadema. The devotion, the classicism, the rapt attention, which also evokes School of Athens, but I think less Raphael and more Cy Twombly, because what these characters have is actually just a messy imitation of intellectual endeavor. And then especially memorable to me is this period of time when Richard is left in total isolation, giving a philosopher in meditation. Poor Richard. Listen, in my house there are many rooms. I contain multitudes, which is why the next book on my list is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This book taught me that I'm very much a friends to lovers girly. I know, so wholesome. We follow Poppy, which, yeah, you've never met a romance protagonist named Poppy before. Poppy and Alex, who used to be summer vacation buddies for like 10 years until they have this mysterious falling out, until they decide to go on one last vacation together 2 years after they'd stopped speaking. And if you don't like an especially quirky main character, this one's probably not for you. But for me, Poppy never really crosses the line into annoying. She just gives me bubbly, summery color, which is why I thought of Matisse's Open Window, which just exudes romance and possibility and travel. But I also love this sweet little sculpture by Constantine Brancusi called The Kiss, because it captures this two parts of one whole feel that Poppy and Alex's friendship romance gives. Plus, it's a little bit funny, and I love Emily Henry because she makes me giggle out loud, like full on kicking my little feet. Okay, this next one, contemplating art, contemplating aesthetic representation for this next one was questionable. This book is on the top of my list for favorite books of all time, but I wanted to tread carefully because it is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. Lolita. Misunderstood, but simultaneously just as gross as people say it is. But does better prose exist in the world? It does not. It would have been really easy to suggest a Sally Mann piece or Balthus, but I wanted to give this one the nuanced diligence that it deserves. Instead, hear me out, I'm thinking of this piece that I saw at MoMA by Mike Kelly called Deodorized Central Mass and Satellites, which is just hundreds of stuffed animals sewn together in clumps hanging from the ceiling, facing toward the center of each mass so that their faces are hidden, and walking through these clumps gave me such a sweetly sick, nostalgic feeling. Like it evoked something like lost innocence, or it gave you the sense that something that's childlike on the outside is actually being profaned or twisted. Or, and this is kind of a stretch, but I just really wanted to include this artist. She's like my favorite living artist, and that's Cecily Brown, and her painting The Girl Who Had Anything. Fleshy, intimate, but also ripped apart and incomprehensible, making me think of Humbert's way of fragmenting Lolita into these erotic parts that ultimately escape the whole of her reality. This next book, My Heart, Bluets by Maggie Nelson. This book came to me when I was feeling blue, when I was in love with someone impossible, but couldn't help being in love with being in love, you know? She named her book after the Joan Mitchell painting, which is lovely, but I'm also in love with the blues of Cy Twombly, Georgia O'Keeffe. This book helped me reconcile myself to the fact that love makes you crazy, unsettled, flung open, disrupted, refracted. Much like this piece by Louise Bourgeois, which says to me that there's something that grounds you in the center of all this. Even if you know a person might not be right for you, you believe that love itself is. Oh, cute. Okay, this next one, bit of a departure, but I just really, really enjoyed the ride reading Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is a sci-fi that really appreciates the scientific method, but also somehow becomes so adorable and also explores how what we might consider to be at the core of our humanity might also exist out there beyond our little blue marble. It is an epic journey through space, which Olafur Eliasson might capture here in Your Spiral View. It also demonstrates the simultaneous majesty and fragility of our relationship with the universe, and in particular the sun, which is a theme that is at the center of Project Hail Mary, and which I think he captures really well in his piece, The Weather Project. The book is a colliding of worlds, like what is found in Tomas Saraceno's Galaxies Forming Along, is also, most importantly, these works by Joan Miro, who is possibly my favorite artist of all time. But if I told you why I thought of these, it would spoil the book, so just enjoy looking. Moving on to a bleaker scientific book. I loved When We Cease to Understand the World by Benjamin Labatut. Not because it's wholesome, not because it's uplifting, but because of the grand scope of the 20th century that it provides. It weaves together the stories of the scientific advancements that irreparably transformed humanity for better, or in most cases for worse. We're talking bombs, nuclear bombs, certain shades of blue, toxic gases, psychoanalysis. It's giving Key Sage, it's giving Cornelia Parker's Cold Dark Matter, the war paintings of Otto Dix, Paul Nash's We Are Making a New World, Diego Rivera's Man at the Crossroads, all bleak, all of particular color palette, all dark, grand narratives of the history in the world that we have inherited. Okay, there are only Two more books that I want to talk about. First, I am guilty. I am a fan of Jonathan Franzen. I adore his characters. The way he's able to dig into a domestic scene and take such easily characterized figures and make them into the realest people I've ever met, at least fictionally. Maybe even real life, actually. They're rarely inspiring characters, and I usually start his books hating them a little bit, but by the end of every book I've read by him, except maybe not so much Purity, but all the rest, I am so devastated to be leaving them behind. In my opinion, Freedom is his best book. It's about a complicated woman who marries a very salt of the earth kind of man and tries to build a very typical suburban life with him, even though she's the kind of person who is always dissatisfied. And she finds some kind of outlet with her husband's best friend. But that doesn't really do it justice, so I'm just gonna let these set the scene. Gregory Crewdson's Sunday Roast, this untitled piece from the Beneath the Roses exhibition, Alice Neal's The Robinson Family. In these pieces, we have all the fundamental parts of a nuclear unit. We've got a house, domestic setting, a man, a woman, and yet we feel the icebox cool of it all, the alienation, like depressing, but oh my god, so fascinating, and you just want to dig in. Like, what's wrong with these people? And is it the same thing that we sense as wrong with ourselves too? Okay, last book. This is The Last Samurai by Helen DeWitt. This book was somehow experimental, pretentious, antisocial, and simultaneously so heartwarming to me. It's about a woman who I think we can assume is on the spectrum, and her relationship with her son, who's basically a savant and is obsessed with discovering who his father is. And actually, obsession is a really good word to use for both of these characters, but instead of their special and complex interests making you feel stupid or isolated, you just feel so pulled into their passion with them. At least I did. It was both meticulous and wild, making me think of the genius before her time, Hilma of Klint. There's this love of detail and attentiveness in The Last Samurai that is shown in the work of Kawada, who is a conceptual artist who pays respect to record keeping and data and dates especially. Or of course there's Yayoi Kusama, whose obsession with repetitive patterns becomes epic at scale. Whew. Well, that was my list. It was a non-exhaustive list. I have many favorite books, but that was enough for now. I really want to know what kinds of artistic connections you have made to your favorite books. Let me know in the comments. I would really love to read them. Thank you so much for being here. This was so fun to prepare, so fun to film. I love talking about this subject, books and art, bringing them together. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in the next one. Bye.